Hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. The Ground Control Brewer has simply been revolutionizing batch brew coffee. It's the next step in batch brewing. It gives you incredible control over a huge range of flavors that you never thought you could draw out of your coffee. It just is truly astounding, and I've tasted results from this machine. It's really fantastic. On top of the SCA award-winning technology that lets you have that kind of control, it also is a very versatile machine that allows you to brew anything from tea, cocoa, batch iced lattes, cold brew. It really allows you to be creative, all out of one machine. And I think, having the ability to be innovative and creative and pivot well in these times is really critical. And having a tool like the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer really makes a lot of sense. So if you're looking to have the absolute best batch brew coffee possible and looking to have a piece of equipment that will help you navigate the landscape of retail creatively, then I recommend that you check out the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. Go visit their website for more information over at vogacoffee.com. That's VOGA coffee.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Flair Espresso. Flair Espresso is a creator of all manual lever press espresso machines. And let me tell you that I love my Flair Pro 2. It is a small footprint, very well made, extremely affordable, and it produces cafe quality espresso right in your own home. It's also portable. Most of them come with their own carrying case. So you see a lot of people posting photos of either making espresso in their kitchens or in the mountains. This is really a cool device, and it's really a perfect balance between ritual and convenience. Right now, you can get 5% off your entire order over at flairespresso.com by using the code Keys to the Flair at checkout. So if you go to their website, flairespresso.com, and you get yourself a Flair Pro 2 or any of the models, whatever you get on their website, you check out, use the code Keys to the Flair, you get 5% off your entire order. I highly recommend this to you, and I think your customers will love it as well. So again, go visit them over at flairespresso.com. Okay, everybody. So today I wanted to address poaching. This is a concept that I think a lot of owners worry about happening to them. And sometimes when we hire a barista who used to work for another shop or switched to our shop and they need to put their 2 weeks in at another store, we worry about this relationship that we have in the small business community, and we want to be above board. We don't want to engage in directly poaching baristas from other shops. So I wanted to get some clarity around this and address that issue. First of all, let's just say that in my stance on this is going to another business, be it a restaurant or a bar or another coffee bar, and doing so directly to try to get one of their staff members to try to work for your establishment it's beneath you. It's beneath us as specialty coffee professionals. That is poaching. You've kind of violated an unwritten rule, which is that you have to wait for the individual to engage you first. That's when it starts to move away from poaching, where the individual might not be happy with where they're working. They know you run a coffee shop, or maybe you're a manager in a coffee shop, and they start talking to you about the jobs available. Now, personally, if I'm in that situation, and I'm not directly poaching, because again, I think that's a wrong thing to do, bringing it up and saying, "Hey, you're really good. How would you like to come work for me? Here's my card." That kind of smarmy, slick, weird, gross way of conducting yourself. At least that's the way it seems to me. It's my caricature. But if you're not doing that, and they ask you about a job at your place, I still personally like to downplay it a little bit, because I want to be respectful of the person who is currently their manager or the owner there, because a lot of times what happens with baristas is maybe they're looking for another place to go because they're just trying to see what their options are, right? And they're not seriously thinking about leaving, but I want to give the person at that store who's the manager or the owner the opportunity to make good on whatever reason it is that this barista is choosing to leave. So that's just a courtesy. It's a courtesy extended to other professionals in the area, other entrepreneurs, business owners in the area, to say, I'm not going to interfere too much with this person. And also it helps to see whether this person is actually really serious about moving on. Once that person has established themselves as very much dead serious about leaving and even puts an application in to your place of business, now it's in the realm of, we're not breaking any unwritten rules here about poaching employees, right? We're respecting the autonomy of the individual. We're not trying to come in there and cold sell somebody on leaving their place of work and coming to work for us. We're waiting for them to make the first move. And that's usually the difference. Now, once they've done that, now we can have an interview. Now we can talk. And in particular, I think it's really important that we talk about why they're leaving their job from before. Now, this gets into the kind of questions that you want to ask somebody when you're looking for who to hire. I will say that in the past, I have hired lots of baristas from, I would say, competitors' coffee shops. And I know that in certain cities, there are coffee shops that have super high turnover because they have maybe some operational problems or they have just, limitations on where baristas can go. Or for whatever reason, there is a shop in a lot of major cities where people start working in coffee, and it may be Starbucks for you, and it might be another shop for others. But a lot of barista applications coming in are people who are working there currently. Right? You got to be careful of this not because you're going to step into some kind of unwritten rule territory with the owner, right? Even though they might say, well, you poached my barista, and you'll say, well, they just put an application in to my shop, which we'll address in a second here. But it's because you don't want to necessarily get a staff full of people who are only working at your place to try to escape from a place they were before. So I've seen it many times where baristas will be working in a place they don't enjoy. They get kind of bitter about whatever situation is happening, and then they search for anywhere else to work. They get a job at another competitor, and what ensues is this unity of how they don't like or they hate this other place. And so now everybody that works at this new job is bringing in this embittered attitude and toxic culture of being anti, fill in the blank, whatever it is that they worked before. Well, that's not a good enough reason for you to hire somebody. You can feel flattered all you want that, they want to leave this other shop and they want to work for us. Well, don't be too flattered because they haven't worked for you yet. No one's perfect. So you're probably going to give them plenty of reason to question why they worked for you. And that just happens at the best of places. It's called being human, okay? We all make mistakes, and there's always going to be tension. The question is, are you importing toxic culture? Are you importing too much bitterness, from this individual? And I've had to say no to people before because they've answered question because they've thrown previous managers so far under the bus you couldn't find the body. They've thrown their coworkers under the bus. They're very arrogant, and they just want to leave because they want to grow as a professional, but their head is too big to fit through the door. You know what I mean? And so it's like, no, thanks. I mean, you're looking for another place, and it's nice that you thought of us, but it would damage this company if you came to work for us. I can see now. Okay, so that's kind of a side issue when we're talking about poaching employees, and it's really extending into the area of just hiring from other shops with people that have had jobs in other shops. So going back to the idea of when a barista from another shop comes to you, wants a job, and you end up hiring them because they're actually a good hire, and maybe they weren't treated right at this other place, and now they're reaching their potential in your store, and you're happy, but guess who's not happy? The owner of that last shop. I want to say that really, if you can look back and know it was not you who went out and poached them. They came to you. You were very careful about how you approached it. You didn't throw anybody under the bus, and neither did they. It was just a mutual, yes, from both parties. You can't do anything about the way that the other company wants to paint what's happening. And I know that happens in many shops where they get agitated because they're losing baristas to their competitors. But let's just say this. If they were serious about keeping baristas, they wouldn't be upset at you for hiring people that wanted to leave them. They would be upset at themselves for not being able to keep baristas that originally wanted to work for them, right? And we cannot think that we are above becoming that bar that people want to leave for another coffee bar because we can't see how we're really stepping in it, okay? So on the question of poaching and hiring from other coffee shops, of course, you don't want to be the one going into a coffee bar, noticing talent, slipping them your card, and, saying, why don't you come work for me? That is just slimy. Don't do that, okay? Be careful navigating the waters of hiring people from other coffee shops until you know their motives and their character through the hiring process. And just as much as you can, create an environment where it's positive, it's affirmational. You're not throwing people under the bus. And just embrace the fact that even if you do all of these things, even if you conduct yourself very well in the process of hiring from another coffee bar, you have to accept that other coffee bar might be a little upset at that. But know this, I think deep down, they know why that person left. And they know that they weren't poached, that the person left for reasons that were legitimate. And it's easier to just blame somebody else and look at your coffee bar and say, well, they're taking our baristas, than it is to say, we are unnecessarily losing our baristas. And also, of course, in that, make sure that you realize that you could become that bar too. So we need to constantly be on top of our management and our leadership and being a people-first organization. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you. It's tricky to navigate these things for sure, and I hope that this gives a little bit of clarity to you in the process. So thanks again for joining me, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.